soy David Keck, soy profesor de español en Lee High School y soy también soy profesor de inglés como segunda lengua en Sunnyvale y soy autor de este libro que se llama La Venganza de Quetzalcoatl. I'd like to thank very much for Mike Kohler for letting me do the presentation here on the east side of San Jose, where I began my teaching career in a barrio called Salsi Puedes, where Cesar Chavez grew up, teaching English as a second language and citizenship classes at a place called Mayfair Community Center. And across from Mayfair is Matson Junior High. That's where I began my coaching career. I coached track and basketball, and I also started a sports program out of basically nothing for the YMCA in the Mount Pleasant area, where I started a football league where I went and recruited kids from junior high and kind of recruit the coaches and refs and everything. So it makes a lot of sense for me to do it here, and it makes a lot of sense that someone from San Jose would write a book about Quetzalcoatl, since they have a statue of Quetzalcoatl in front of the Fairmont in downtown San Jose, the Mexican deity. And who can tell me who Quetzalcoatl is? Anybody? Any idea? There's a god. Anybody else? Yeah, the indigenous people don't like for them to refer to them as gods. They're just elements. Just like they believe that they basically in these ceremonies in favor of the elements. He was a Toltec priest. Toltec civilization lived here on the east coast of Mexico, and he was also called Kukulkan, which is the same Mayan god mentioned in the movie Apocalypto. Anybody see Apocalypto? Mel Gibson? Good movie. And he was also the wind god, or the wind, the indigenous people would like us to refer them to. He was the creator of the Aztec and Mayan calendar, which measures time in precise increments, more precise in our calendar. That's why we have the leap year. It's based on the sun and the movement of the sun and the rotation of the earth around the sun. He was also opposed to the human sacrifices. That's why he was exiled. But he promised that he would return one day in the exact same year that Cortez, the conquistador, showed up. And one thing I found interesting while I was studying the subject is he was the one deity that all the indigenous people believed in, from the Ohio Valley down to Nicaragua. The Aztecs inherited the trade route of a tribe called the Huaxteca, and the Huaxteca had taken over the Toltecs. And so they already had the trade route established, in which they would go from here up to the Gulf of Mexico, up to the Mississippi River, up into the Ohio Valley. And that's where you can find images of Quetzalcoatl in the caves in the Ohio Valley up here. And there's also a plant that can only be found in Mexico City down here that they found up here in the Great Lakes. So that connects the dots for me there. And also down here in Nicaragua and Laguna Azotzoca, they also have an image of Quetzalcoatl in the middle of a lake and some rocks in the middle of the lake, which makes sense because they used to have armed caravans that used to go down to Central America to try to obtain the Quetzal feather. You can see, this is a Quetzal, a bird that inhabits Guatemala. And so Quetzalcoatl also means, this is Quetzalcoatl means serpiente, which means snake. So Quetzalcoatl basically is a symbolic figure that personifies the earth, which is Coatl, and Quetzal, the air. And the book is a summary of all the written history, pretty much, that's ever been written on Hernan Cortez. I remember one time my roommate came home and had like about 20 books sitting on the table, just making references to one battle, just to see exactly what happened. My friend making fun of me, I remember that. And it's also the oral traditions and ceremonies that are still carried on today by the Aztec people. It was published by Editorial Perua, which is the second largest publishing house in the Spanish-speaking world. And I have done previous presentations for San Jose State, the Universidad de Durango, the Mexican Navy, and I've been interviewed on TV in the state of Sinaloa, what would be the equivalent of Good Morning America. And so the purpose of this presentation is going to be a little bit different today. This is the way I've always wanted to do it. Basically to educate and entertain at the same time. Okay, so you're going to learn a little bit today how the Spanish language and Christianity arrived to this continent. I'm going to accomplish this, and the book accomplishes by taking you directly to Mexico, 1519 to 1521. Starts in 1519 with Hernán Cortés with his 500 men and 18 horses arrived on the east coast of Mexico. You better cruise. 18 horses, that was 18 horses. Something that they've never seen in this continent before. We're going to read a scene about them a little bit later and how they astonished and amazed the Aztecs. And so Quetzalcoatl said he would return in the exact same year. So he was born in 969. And so he's exiled and said, I'm going to come back in 1521, the same exact year when Hernán Cortés showed up. So that's why they obviously confused him for Quetzalcoatl. And the other purpose is to show people that this would be an outstanding movie. I'm sure of it. It's got dialogue and it's ready to go. The making of the book, I think, would be another movie because I basically followed Cortez's footsteps to where he was born in Extremadura, España. Right here, it's called Extremadura. Many conquistadors have come here from here, like Francisco Pizarro as well, the conqueror of Peru. It's called Extremadura because of the extreme heat in the summer and the extreme coldness in the winter. And I also went to Veracruz, Mexico, where Cortés first disembarked, and to Puerto Vallarta. In Puerto Vallarta, I met some Aztec dancers that started to share some information with me. That they, first of all, I approached them and told them about my book, and they said, normally we don't share this information with anybody, especially a gringo. But they could see that I was sincere and that this might be a way for their traditions and cultures to carry on. And the irony is I was going back to Puerto Vallarta to get some more information, and I missed my flight in Mexico City. And on the way down to Mexico City, I went through LAX first, and I was reading the LA Times, and in the airplane, I was reading where there was 2,000 assaults committed per day in Mexico City. And so I wanted to get in and out of there as fast as possible. But I started messing around. I went into the bookstore there, started talking to the book owner, and next thing you know, there goes my plane. So I missed my flight in Mexico City. But like I said, the irony or destiny of it is that that's where all the information was. That's where the Aztec capital was. And so when I walk outside the airport, and someone comes up to me and said, "Tienes un problema? You got a problem?" And I started looking to see if he was going to pull out a knife or a gun or something. And I said, "No, do you have a problem?" He said, "No." He said, "Can I help you out?" And he said, and I told him my purpose, and he took me right where the Aztec capital used to be. And that's where I got the majority of the information for the book. As you can see, here's some pictures of Mexico City, and they began to excavate to renovate here about 10 years ago, and they found the base of the pyramid. But the most important trip was the first one, I think, that I made to Mexico, to Mazatlan, Mexico, in which two friends invited me to go on a trip to Mazatlan. And I became interested in the Mexican culture and how it was formed because of the people that I met in Mazatlan. And that's also where I began my teaching career and teaching English at La Universidad de Occidente. Mazatlan means the land of the deer in Nahuatl, the Aztec language, and that's why I named the main character Mazatl, which means deer, in honor of Mazatlan. Mazatlan is the narrator of the novel 15-year-old Aztec boy trained to become an eagle warrior. who was one of the few inhabitants in the Aztec capital that believed that Cortez was not Quetzalcoatl. And he's also an artist and a historian.